So, this is what we're calling it Goldbrook Tavern, a
Yes,
Legacy
sir.
Steel and Sorcery podcast.
Sir.
Is that what we're going with?
The
But,
goated merman freaking title, dude. It was unanimous
Yeah.
vote.
all right. So, that's what it is. Welcome to Goldbrook Tavern, a Legacy Steel and Sorcery podcast, episode 1. This is not a pilot because it will not fail, right?
That's it.
All right.
If
So-
anyone wonders why we chose Goldbrook, in the roadmap it is a new zone, and underneath the description it says the lush pastures nested north of Greenwood is a perfect starting zone for new players. So, yeah,
It's the
just a
tutorial zone
background.
too. So
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
a beginner friendly kind of thing. Chat about the game.
Yeah, I think honestly
Nope.
the perfect name.
Mhm.
Appreciate your boys. All right, so let's just go ahead and talk about Legacy Steel and Sorcery, like how it was when you started playing and the changes that have happened. I know that we've had 2 patches and a couple of hot fixes, so let's just start at the very beginning, and then let's work our way through those patches and just talk about what you think about the changes that have occurred already.
Yeah, quick disclaimer for anyone that may watch this in the future that is curious about how we started in Legacy Steel and Sorcery. Legacy Steel and Sorcery has obviously been in closed beta since before February 12th. All of us, and each of us can speak on like when we got started. We played after the February 12th early access release, so we haven't ever been part of any alpha testing or beta testing. I've seen some individuals that in their clips and YouTube content and stuff that have, but I started around like maybe February 15th, February 16th. I was like scrolling through freaking Steam and saw the devcast and was like, yo, what's this game? $25? I'm sold because I just want a new RPG to play. And I was pleasantly surprised at what I found. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there for people that are wondering like how OG we are. We're as OG about as OG as EA exists, but that's our starting point too.
And we all definitely have our own classes that we play or main pretty much. Myself is rogue, so I'll have a lot of rogue insight into these. Dale, he's strictly a hunter main. Haven't really seen him play hardly anything else except for priest in the very beginning.
That's
Haven't
it.
seen him touch any other class since then.
That's it.
And then Deca is a little bit of a jack of all trades, but he is the best priest out of any of us.
Yeah.
So,
I started Legacy the last week of February. My buddy hit me up. He was like, "Hey, this game looks pretty dope." I got it. I ended up falling in love with it, and now he doesn't play it, but I can't stop playing it. So I'm not super experienced yet, but I'm getting there. Definitely getting there.
Dale got me into this game, so we're both in love with it. So we're gonna continue on. But so let's get into the how the game kind of started and the changes that have happened. I know at least with rogues specifically, they were super goated in the beginning. I loved it. The darts were amazing. You could pretty much be a hunter. But after the very first patch, they got gutted. It was bad. But still loved it. But I couldn't hit any more darts. The darts were probably the biggest nerf. It went from being like a hunter that could shoot a longbow down to like a priest scepter, but without the auto aim, right? And they moved as slow as like a goblin's attack. So
W changed my opinion, just saying, Hunter's gotta do what Hunter's gotta do, bro. No other class should do it. Just saying. He leaves the chat instantly. Just wanted to throw my 2 cents out there,
I'm gonna get out of
it.
oh yeah. So rogues did get nerfed pretty hard, but we did have another patch come through, and they definitely buffed rogues to an extent. The darts are a lot easier to hit again. and we're not as strong as we were in the very beginning, but we did make a little bit of a comeback. I think the class feels a lot better right now. Um, Still, easy to die, but you can play a lot of mind games. You have a lot of chase down potential on your swords. Daggers is a whole nother ball game, but it's really cheesy. So you can crit people for 1,000 damage if you're in some decent gear. So, and they can't do nothing about it. Um, but yeah, Dale, go ahead and tell me about the hunter experience.
Yeah, so as they kind of said when I started the game, I was playing priest, and I was playing a lot of sword and shield, playing a little bit of scepter, but then I fell in love with the staff, and then I was like, wait, I keep getting smacked by hunters. Like, what's going on here? So I wanted a piece of the sauce. So I picked up the longbow, found out that that shit was like the most goated weapon in the game, and I never looked back. I literally have like a level 5 rogue, a level like 3 warrior, a level like 8 or 9 priest, and a level 20 hunter. So I play hunter exclusively. In terms of like where the class has been, I honestly feel like hunter for the most part does very well in the map currently because of just the open landscape. There's a lot of long angles, as well, as long as you have like good draw distance on, like enabled on your computer, like you can set up a lot of fights for your team. They play really well into pretty much every comp. So I think one of the reasons that I kind of got drawn to hunter in the first place was that it was a very flexible class. I think it's, in my humble opinion, it's one of the most fair classes to play against, right? A good hunter has to hit shots. Those shots require you to hit them, right? There's very little auto aim with the exception of Swift Bow. It's kind of on the side. I need to freaking disable ads when I do this. I totally forgot about that. But if you get on top of a hunter, it's pretty easy, especially a solo hunter, right? It's pretty easy to punish them. The one exception, and it's been a point of contingency for the community, is Sentinel Cyclone, which is that tornado that hunters can throw up. I mean, the boys and I were literally fighting a triple hunter longbow team yesterday, and it was like the one time I was in blue gear without a blue longbow, and I could not get enough significant damage on them to lock them down, to like follow up with my teammates, and they were constantly just running away. So I do agree that like the cyclone variant of hunter is kind of very kitey and sometimes can be a little bit of a nuisance, but compared to some of the things in the game, I feel like it's still relatively fair. There's very few times I die by a hunter that I'm just like, what the F just happened? You know what I mean? And I can't say the same for some of the other classes. We did receive a Sentinel Cyclone nerf for Hunter. That was probably the biggest change. They originally were going to do like a 20-second or like a 10-second Cyclone cooldown. No, 20 seconds, I think, right? And then it got dropped down to 5 seconds, and now it's up to 8 seconds. So it's good. It's in a pretty decent place. With multiple hunters, it kind of just, I mean, with any class, if you multiply them, it kind of just creates more problems. But yeah, I really mess with hunter lately. I've been challenging myself to stand my ground more. So I haven't really been running Cyclone. I've been running Sentinel Call and Sentinel Strike to try and zone warriors and rogues and priests a little better. That's pretty much me and hunter.
Yeah, and then I guess I play priest. When I first started, I was a rogue main for a long time, and I was not real big into PvP. I was more like a PvEer as a rogue. Then I moved to priest because priest has a lot of AoE splashes, a lot of AoE stuns, and then I fell in love with priest. I'm slowly getting into the PvP aspect now with priest. But yeah, the recent nerf with priest, I believe they got rid of her spirit flasks, and now you have to pray at statues. So that can kind of be a little bit of a pain, especially like if you're doing a boss fight, like Morthog, and you run out of spirit. You don't have that ability to regain spirit to help heal your teammates while in that fight. But at the same time, I believe the changes for the priest have been very good. Like healing at a statue, you get 60% of your spirit back, and you heal your teammates for I believe it's 40% health. I'm not 100% sure on that.
It's like 437,
Yeah.
right? So that
I want to say, yeah, it's like 30% probably.
yeah,
Okay,
somewhere
30%.
around that. Yeah,
Around 30%.
that's
But
like
yeah,
437 in whites or greens.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Fell in love with priest. I prefer staff. I've been trying to get into scepter just because I've seen a lot of streamers really going crazy with scepter, especially since it has auto lock. And I've never tried sword and shield, so that'll probably never happen.
It's fun, bro.
But yeah.
Not gonna lie, being like a
Really?
off tank and with priest stuff, dude. Merman remembers when I used to play sword and shield. I would run in on a team and I would shit on people. It's really fun.
I just have such a hard time getting out of fights.
Yeah, well, sword and shield gives you a lot of like utility to do
movement.
so because you have like the shield dash. You have the like the parry, which is the block left click that does like the wings that go forward and pushes people back. Like they actually have a lot of really cool utility that people overlook, I think, in the priest community. There's some goated priests like sword and shield players, don't get me wrong. They're usually supported by another priest.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like and we could talk about that kind of stuff later, but anyways, it's good though. I definitely recommend you try it. It's really fun.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely I remember in the beginning, like whenever I tried to play priest, there was a lot of stuff in the kit that just wasn't working as intended. I think they've definitely squared away a lot of that stuff with the 2 patches so far.
Yeah, I also want to jump on that. They doubled your spirit that you normally start with from 300 to 600. And I think that was probably the best change they could have done, because I remember when I first started playing priest, I was playing staff, so your basic heals is for 200, and I feel like that's using half of your spirit right off the rip. So you had to have spirit flasks with you.
I think that's good though, personally. If I'm just gonna we could talk about like how we feel about some of the changes. I think a lot of the problems in why priest is kind of like oppressive right now is because in the long fight, if you walk in with full spirit, you're healing a fucking warrior for like so much health. You can pull how many like full charge staff heals can you pull off with 600 spirit? Like 5, 6.
I think it depends on what staff you're using, but yeah, 5 or 6.
So, and that's 600 health per freaking full cast.
With the staff, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, think about that. A warrior that has the biggest HP pool in the entire game, running people down, getting pocket heals from a priest that never has to hit a spirit flask or like have any kind of like reset animation. Mind you, you got rogues that have to kind of reset in between fights. Hunters need to reposition and stand their ground and then ditch on certain times. And priests have so much uptime. And I think that's why we're seeing them.
Yeah.
Because yes, it was kind of a nerf to double the thing and not give spirit flasks because of the bug, unfortunately. But I honestly think when priests go back to 300 spirit, they're gonna feel a lot more fair. I think the reason that priests feel really shitty right now is because they have a huge resource pool. Dude, I can throw 2 seed bombs and a freaking trap down and I'm tapped on Hunter.
Yeah.
You feel me? Like that's crazy, dude. That's like
on top of that,
so like off tilt.
Yeah. And then on top of that, you pick up one of your stars, you get a movement speed buff and a damage buff.
Yeah.
So like you're always staying up with your team.
They're sleeper overtuned
like,
right now.
Oh yeah, and then if you're like actually putting those abilities on someone and you get them to get the what is it, the penitence or penitence debuff, then you whatever damage you do to them, you're healing yourself. And then on top of that, you have your trait shield, as well as your actual card
bubbles,
shield.
Yeah, bubbles.
And
with
those
no
things,
cooldown, by the way, Spile.
No, they have cooldowns.
What's the trait cooldown? What's the card cooldown?
20 seconds.
Oh,
Yeah, and I
okay,
think
never
it's
mind.
the same
Yeah.
for the trade bubble, I believe.
Yeah, trade
Roughly
bubble.
20
After the
seconds
bubble pops, it's
after it.
20
Yep.
seconds till it
Okay.
reactivates. Yep.
Yep. Um.
Was that
So yeah,
recent?
I
Because
mean
I
they
feel
got
like I've
Yeah,
seen
that
like
was with the priest nerf.
okay,
yeah.
because I've seen like teams get full bubbled and walk into a fight, and I'm like, what is this bullshit? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, before the nerf, I'm pretty sure it was a 5-second cooldown for card bubbles.
Yeah,
Jesus.
the trade bubble's always been the same, from my knowledge. It's always been like that 20 seconds from when it popped. But yeah, the card was a little oppressive.
Yeah.
I'm glad they did that. And I mean, then on top of that, they do have the cleanse card, which could be really nice. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen too many people do this, but you can cleanse a cheap shot. I had that happen in a random fill game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can cleanse a cheap shot. You
That's pretty
the
sick.
person can get out of it, and they can as long as you do it almost
Yeah, yeah.
immediately before they get the backstab, the person can then evade out and just completely miss the backstab. Um, but yeah, and
Damn, I
then
didn't know that.
with priest, they're the scepter and the staff both the right left click, um, getting people off of you, especially like if or if a rogue.
Yeah.
From my perspective, if I'm running the phantom daggers, if I throw it, which there's a lot of counters to it, right? The priest, if they're running scepter or staff, if they do the right left click, they shove that
Oh,
into the
the
ground
bubble
and does
blow.
the
Yeah.
yeah does the AOE and it'll knock you back. So as long as they time that right, when you're traveling in on that dagger, they'll knock you down. Same thing if a warrior's running mace and shield, he can do the quake. And he'll do the same thing. Uh, with that being said, I do like specifically for warriors here. The one of the changes that they just made was whenever you swap your weapons, everything goes on cooldown. So let's say if they had their axe out and I did that, if they switch to their
Oh,
mace and shield,
yeah.
they can't quake.
Right.
So if you catch them with the dagger, it's a lot more mind games now of paying attention to
To
not
little
only what
things.
they have. Yeah, it's like what
Yeah.
weapon do they have out?
Yeah.
If they have an axe, I'm okay to go in. If they have mace and shield, I need to be careful because he can quake me as soon as I go in,
Yeah.
and I can't get a cheap shot off. I don't play dagger rogue as much as I do swords. I'm usually a Phantom Veil Visage, just teleport mind games in and out kind of player. But yeah, I think that is a good change so far with the changes as a whole. I think they have been moving in such a great direction. They have been listening to the community for the most part. I do think they're also standing their ground on certain aspects that they believe to be true, which in almost every game and with the developer crew, I think that is something that they should do, as well as listen to the players. The players aren't always going to be right. That is something. Players will obviously complain about a lot of things, whatever they're dying to, whatever they don't know. And I've seen a lot of that coming into the game where being new, you're going to get frustrated with so many things. But if you just take the time, gain the experience, you're going to learn that you can counter things with different things. And once you learn, like how the Quake and the Staff and Scepter, they can knock you down if you go in on a dagger. Once you know that, you're going to be a lot more worried about it. You're going to wait until you see them use that cooldown. Then instead of being like, oh, they're so broken, you're paying attention to their cooldowns, right?
Yeah.
So I think they've been making a lot of good changes to everything, though, in my opinion, this far. So
It seems
Yeah, I
very
agree.
apparent that they have good background metrics too. Because you were saying like they stand their ground on certain things, and the rationale they give for changes is usually really solid. It's not just, hey, XYZ streamer said that this was broken as hell and we're going to change it. It was like, hey, we noticed XYZ was happening in all these games. Cooldown for swapping weapons is from inventory. Warriors did not get a CD for
I did not
swapping
know.
weapons. Oh, well, sheesh. I mean,
thought
that
they
kind of
did.
it kind of makes sense though, because warrior is the one class that has the
you
whole
can
double
swap,
weapon gimmick. But to be
Well,
fair though,
I take back what I said about throwing daggers to them.
them switching weapons is kind of slow though. You know what I mean? I will be honest with you, Defects. Thanks for catching us on that. We do not play warrior. It's just
Yeah,
it's just a
Warriors the one
straight
class
up.
we don't.
We all three have tried it and fucking hate the class. So
Yeah.
please
That's the only
correct
class we
us
don't do.
at any time, brother man. Like
Yeah.
please. We
Full
are,
disclaimer.
yeah,
Warrior.
we are
don't
totally
know.
cool to stand corrected on anything. Honestly, we're just trying to hang out and talk some shit about the game that we all are really really loving right now. But yeah, like I said, like with all the balance changes that they've come out with, I feel like they have some inside metrics that we will know about, obviously, as the community, that are really really solid. And they gives them a really good insight into the game. I think a huge benefit to that is they have a pretty small sample size, i.e., player base, right? So they can really focus a lot of time and energy on the reporting and just their systems. They don't have this huge player base right now, but I think they deserve it. Honestly, I think this game is cooking pretty crazy for a game that's like just fresh out of early access to come with so many like answers to so many problems in other kind of looter extraction games like i.e. Dark and Darker, Dungeonborn, things of this nature. Like they have some really dope stuff. There's definitely tons of room for improvement, but I think Legacy is doing a great job at being very transparent and very proactive when it comes to balance changes that don't seem tone deaf to the audience, which is my biggest like props to the devs. They've been killing it, honestly.
Oh, yeah. So I know we went ahead and went over a lot of the changes to the classes. I'm not, like we just said, full disclaimer, none of us really are into warrior that heavy. I don't know a lot of the changes to them, but I know they have, in my opinion, been one of the strongest classes from the beginning. They did just receive, like in this latest patch, the second patch of early access, they did receive probably the most nerfs out of any class. So they did get knocked down from being super oppressive, but they are very strong, especially in my opinion, if they're in mixed, because we mainly do a lot of mixed here instead of solos. We each do a little bit of our own solos though, but in mixed, um, as long as they have a pocket priest, they're pretty good. I think honestly one of the best comps is probably warrior priest hunter, um, but even like a warrior priest or warrior priest goes pretty insane too. Um, Correct me if y'all believe anything else is more OP.
I think it's a testament to how strong they are that they got nerfed as hard as they did and still remained
Yeah.
super relevant.
As
Right.
well as that, yeah. Yep.
I mean, they're the only class that does like the thing that's cool about Legacy is instead of going like, here's 8 classes to play from, and we're gonna like spread ourselves thin. It's like here's 4 classes that do 4 uniquely different things, right?
Yeah.
And they should do those 4 uniquely different things. The only class I think that sticks out as a sore thumb right now to me is Priest. Priest is a little bit of too much of a lot of things, too well. I think they could get kind of tuned back in some things. Like I think Priest movement is cool, and they're the only class that can do that. But if Priest movement is so crazy, like maybe we should think about their shielding resources, right? If you're gonna be nimble, you shouldn't be just as tanky as a warrior sometimes, right? Like, but for the most part, like warrior, because they're the frontline bruiser, because they're meant to lock people down, and they're meant to be the thing that disrupts like an enemy team. I think they do it so well that even despite all the nerfs, you still see warriors in every game, and I think it's good. I think it shows good balance because they can quote unquote nuke a class, and the class well, with the exception of the rogue nerf was really bad, but they rolled that shit back fast, right? But
Yeah.
the warrior nerf is just good tuning. I think it was really good tuning from a balance perspective, and I don't feel as like holy shit that fight was unfair because I got jumped on by a warrior. Like there's a give and take now with warriors, like especially on hunter. I have bramble traps. They can't charge through those motherfuckers anymore. Dude, I can't tell you how pissed I would get when I would throw down a bramble trap and then the warrior's just like choo choo and just starts running at me in a straight line. I'm like, bro, you've got to be kidding me, man. What am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? And then I'm just getting like gang banged by 2 400-pound dudes. I can't, right? Anyways.
Couldn't Rogue also blade dash through them?
Yeah. Before.
Before.
I don't.
Yeah.
Could they?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
I
it
know
was
now they fixed
charge
on
and blade
everything.
dash
Yeah.
can't go through them anymore. It was like a nice change to Hunter, I think, that nobody was really talking about. Bramble's so widely used, Bramble traps, because I think they're low key and mixed. They're the best trap to use, especially if you're running the Eagle Feather Scale
Yeah,
Mail helmet.
yeah.
You can place two. You could stand your ground as a Hunter, which is really dope. Because before GG, if there's two warriors and they catch you, it's over, boy. Kiss your ass goodbye.
Oh no. So with that being said, let's go over some of the quality of life changes and other changes in the recent patches for like loot items or like the crafting and like the traders. So with that being said, I think they have done really good changes here. They did notice that reputation does take quite a while to gain. Um, they did drop back some of the barter items and craftable items
Hmm.
down like one or two reputations on multiple different vendors. So I think that was a big plus for a lot of like newer players coming in, as well as just like other loot items that they or like craftable items that they made. Like they noticed that Tavern made has been one of the hardest vendors to gain reputation on. And you can find a lot of like carrots and hardy potatoes in Greenwood, and they now allow you to craft chopped carrots and like I think it's the baked
Baked
potatoes.
potatoes.
Baked
Yeah.
potato.
Yeah, so they just added a couple more craftable items so you can start gaining that reputation a bit more. Um, so I think those have been really good changes. All in all, I think they're doing a really good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how they changed a lot of the 2x2 slots to 2x1 slots, as in
That's
different
a huge one.
leathers, tool belt. Um, what else did they change size wise?
A bunch of stuff. Like
Yeah, there was a
some of
lot.
the cooked foods are like a 1x2 now. Like a lot of
Oh
the
yeah,
2x2s get
yep.
changed to a 1x2, which is nice because we all have limited storage and backpack space, right? So it's just nice, just quality of life. Seeing quality of
Yeah.
life changes
Which
this early is pretty dope. Shows the dev team that
yeah, and I
cares, I
think
think.
one of the big changes as well in this recent patch is the crafting materials needed for certain
Oh
items,
yeah,
especially
yep.
with the backpacks. You can craft
Mhm.
backpacks a lot easier now, so you don't have to keep going in with junk or bartering with the treasurer to hope that you get a decent backpack. Um, and you're not running too many knapsacks, as it's pretty easy to craft a green, a blue, and a purple backpack now. They dropped the materials on a lot of things very easy, or they dropped a lot of things down quite a bit, so it makes it very easy to craft them now. So huge changes, and yeah, what you were saying, that was a good point with the switching a lot of the leathers from being a two by
Yeah,
two to a
that
two by
used to be
one.
terrible.
Yeah, because you definitely have very limited stash
Yeah,
space. And one thing about Deca, and if y'all don't know already, this man is a hoarder. He has
yeah. I
more
farm.
stuff than anybody.
I farm too
So
much.
yeah, this man's stash is filled to the brim. It always looks like, and it's just stacks on stacks of like leather and gems and everything.
Yeah, and before the patch, yo, when it was 2x2s for leather, oh man, yo, it was terrible. Like, you didn't have room or space for anything,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, I do think there's one thing that Dale here is really gonna want to harp on a little bit. Um, let's give our opinions on the in like the PVE, the NPCs, right? What y'all
Oh
think of their
my.
damage and health?
Yeah,
Okay,
we had this talk
I
last
know,
night.
I know. I feel like Dale has the biggest opinion on this. So let's go ahead and start with Dale's opinion and then piggyback off that.
Okay. So, monsters, NPCs, whatever you want to call them, they should be a like they should be some sort of a roadblock to players. They should augment the battlefield. We don't want to be just playing in a fucking like 3v3 arena, just like a coliseum type arena with no like obstacles, right? However, especially because I end up playing a lot of times like rogue, rogue, priest, or excuse me, rogue, hunter. If I'm with two rogues, man, and they're constantly going invis and they're taunt swapping with me, all the aggro's coming to me on hunter, and I can b hop and things away from freaking mobs. But if I'm getting like, there's a type of skelly mob specifically,
The archer.
and no, well, the archers, the elite
The
archers,
green archers are crazy.
will
Yeah.
fuck you up. They will literally do half your
Yeah.
health in one arrow, which is absurd. A guy in purple armor won't do that much health, but an NPC will, right? And there's another skelly minion that he has no armor on, no shield. And he has this great sword that he swings like haphazardly, like he's some fucking farmhand that never learned how to fight. But he can half your health in 2 swings and stagger you, right? Like, I think those things specifically need to be changed. I think tuning some of the minion or the NPC health down. Elites are fine. Elites should be fine, I think, with decent sized health pools. But basic mobs, I mean, being longbow, I see a lot of the health pools. Like the freaking rogue goblins have like 2k health, right? Like they have more health than a base, like than a green armored freaking player. Like, I'm sorry, but an NPC shouldn't have more health than me, right? Like, and they shouldn't do more damage than anyone in the freaking game. Like, bosses, yes. Elites, yes. 100%. Mini bosses, yes. Regular mobs, I think that needs to be addressed a little bit. I think for new players, it's super punishing. In the mid fight, it can be super annoying. The last change they did with like, oh, well, the mobs won't leash as long to you. Yeah, but you fucking fart in the back of the church and every mob in a 2-mile radius is literally running you down, right? Like, they messed with something with the aggro range, and as hunter specifically, I hate it. I hate it so much. I feel like I'm playing PvE VP, you know what I mean, simulator. Like, I'm constantly dodging mobs to try and get a shot off on a triple hunter freaking team that has magically no aggro on them. Maybe it's just poor me. I suck because I'm running into the PvE. That could be part of it, but
Skill issue.
it could be a skill issue. Sometimes it could be, for sure. If I'm kiting away, just running, trying to like play my life, it definitely could be that. But I definitely think the health pools and the damage are a little overtuned. And I would love to see just a teeny tiny change, you know, instead of 2k health, that goblin, you know, that goblin rogue having like 1200. I think that would be perfectly fine, right? As an example.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that's one of the ones that one of the ones I think I know like almost pretty close without pulling up any wikis or anything. That's me. That's all I got on mobs and stuff. It sucks. I hate it.
No, I agree. I noticed that a lot as well. I think either they need to lower the health pool and keep the damage, or lower the damage but keep the health pool. I think that would be like a fair way to nerf it. Just so like you still have to worry about them at points, but it's not a necessity while you're in a fight.
Yeah.
And with the leashes and everything that you guys were bringing up, I see that a lot playing rogue. Like, I'll go in Viz and I'll still get aggros while I'm in Viz, and I don't understand how that even works. But I mean,
it's because there's no true invis in this game. You're stealthed, so you can
yeah.
like spook a enemy, like just so like a player can see you, a mob can still see you, right? Because you shimmer.
No.
You have to be a lot closer, I think, when you're in stealth. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like you have a more room for error, I feel like, when you are shrouded.
Yeah, no, you have more room for error. I mean, it's not like they're gonna swing at you either, from my experience, but they will aggro and they'll make their like the skeletons noise and shit. I probably have the off take on this. Like I'm strictly speaking from experience from like Dark and Darker and like Tarkov, right? Like in Tarkov, you can get one shot by a scav, right? You don't have the right gear on and stuff. And then in Dark and Darker,
but you can one shot a scav with shit ammo.
you can one shot a scav too. Yes,
their health pools are way less.
Yeah, they are way less. But there's that risk in it, right? You always know if you're not rocking some good gear, you could just get shit on. Unfortunately, I've had Dale running in front of me, leading the way sometimes. The next thing I know, I just see him. I hear a pow, and then his character just fucking
Slumps.
falls over dead. And he's like, and then he starts raging a little bit. Like, what the fuck happened?
I got hit
Oh,
eyes
this
by
guy.
birdshot from 80 meters away. Oh my god, how the fuck was I supposed to counterplay that? Thanks, BSG. Yeah. Why I don't play
And
Tarkov
then,
anymore.
oh yeah, and then Dark and Darker. I mean, the PVE was definitely difficult in Dark and Darker. You just kind of have to learn um, their patterns of attacks. I think in this game, the pattern of attacks don't matter as much for your regular PVE, because the stagger for like melee is
Yeah.
super easy. You do have your evades, so like Dale and the Hunter could probably speak to this more, but I'm sure he doesn't probably have as bad of a time with PVE. Just like I'm talking about your regular PVE. We're not talking about any elites right now. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about Morthog or ogres. Just like your regular PvE, not really hard, right? I mean, you kind of understand pretty quickly what they do. Like the wolves, they'll turn red, they'll jump at you twice. The white wolves, they'll turn blue and they'll jump at you like 5 or 6 times. um, like it's all pretty simple stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then the goblins each have their own little thing. Like the ranged goblins can throw like the little 3 balls that explode. The bombers will throw like a. Right now, I'm always seeing pumpkins.
Yeah, I
They'll
noticed
throw a
that.
pumpkin and it'll explode and it'll be fire
Yeah.
for a couple seconds after that lasting. But for the most part, those PVE, I don't think it's hard, or you need to know their move sets or anything like that compared to like Dark and Darker. But in Dark and Darker, you get hit, it hurts. But at the same time, in Dark and Darker, you can also hit them 3 or 4 times, depending on what gear you're in. Maybe even once or twice, and they're dead. So I do agree. I think the HP pools on them could be a little less. Um, Now, this game is in early access, so a lot of things can change. Maybe they will add move sets, maybe they won't, maybe they'll keep it the same. I do agree with both of you guys, though, that I think it would be nice to explore different options, whether it's maybe less or more damage from them. Probably less, especially on the more elite ones that can do more damage to you than a full purple um, warrior.
Yeah.
So I think that does need to be addressed. Maybe the health pools, same thing. They could be addressed. I'm not too worried about it, but I would say, if anything, I wouldn't mind the health pools being dropped, just because if you are in PVE or PvP, right? PvE can be a huge detriment. It's not like you can just kill them in 3 hits and then go back to PvP. No,
Yeah.
you have to. If you're in like white gear or even green gear, you might have to do 2 full combos as like a sword rogue, right? So you'll do your 4 light attacks, and then maybe you have to charge a heavy to kill them, or do another 3 light
Yeah.
attacks to kill them, and that takes up too much time. If you have a hunter that you're fighting, they're running a longbow, they're gonna hit you when you're trying to
Oh
do
yeah.
that if you're not buying cover. So like, I do agree. I think the health pools can go down. The damage on the elites maybe. When it does come to the bigger bosses now, like the elites or ogres or Morthog, I do think they have a decent attack pattern right now that you can catch on to pretty quickly. Just a lot of them do have, like, when you get to the elites, they have their combo attacks. A lot of times you'll see this by when they turn red, and that's like they're pretty much unstaggerable, but you can hit them with a stun, like the pre-stun or cheap shot, things like that. So, except when you get to the super big bosses like the ogres, you can't do that. And then Morthog. I think Morthog's attacks are really simple. I do like the fight, though. Honestly, he does a lot of damage. So if you do get hit once or twice, you're kind of put into a danger zone. So you got to be careful. But all in all, I mean, I do like the PVE in this game as well. Extremely love the PvP. It feels really good when you're in like your white or gray gear and you go up against the
Oh
green
yeah.
or blue team, and there is skill to the game. It's not all gear. But talking about this, if y'all don't want to, if y'all have nothing more to say about PVE, we could start moving this into what do y'all think about the armor and weapon scaling in the current state?
One quick thing on the PvE, it would be real fast and then I'll drop it. The reason why Dark and Darker PvE feels less punishing, with one small exception, is because you don't get staggered in Dark and Darker. You can get full staggered in this game. And staggering is something I want to bring up later because it, I think, is one of the things that makes this game unique. It has some skill expression, but there are times where you lose agency in your character and you cannot touch your mouse and keyboard, and you literally just die for free because your two people typically are like staggering the fuck out of you, and you can't catch any iframes, and you fucking die, right? In Dark and Darker, you get slowed temporarily, and you could usually run away, right? Even if you get hit by a freaking nightmare mob, well, with some exceptions, you know, rip Thanos, that dude will literally two-shot you in Dark and Darker. But for the most part, if you get like chunked by an elite mob in Dark and Darker in like Infernal Hell on High Roller, you can still run away. But sometimes in Legacy, you'll get smacked once, staggered super hard by a PvE mob, and then he's chaining another attack into you, and that stagger not only takes you out of the fight, takes half your health, and sets up your enemy for really shitting on you, right? So I feel like the stagger, if done right, is fun in PvP and even PvE. I agree with you, and that's why I say that there is skill expression in it, and I don't think that it's the problem. I'm just saying the reason that the PvE sometimes feels bad is because they're staggering you and chunking half your health and taking you out of the fight. Like there's a lot of combining elements to it that fucking sucks. So that's all I have to say. And then we can talk about gear for sure.
No, I definitely agree. I think the stagger is something unique to this game that is definitely I mean, I enjoy it to an extent, like you were saying, when you are getting staggered, it can feel pretty bad. I do think with the stamina that they implemented as well within the stagger system, it's definitely unique. I do enjoy it. It is a learning curve, especially with this newer patch. They did nerf like the stamina for classes, as well as like when you're jumping, you don't regain stamina, things like that. But all in all, I do think it is pretty good. Could maybe use some tweaks, but we'll just see as the game goes on. For the newer players, if they get some guide about stagger, because you can get stagger 2 times, then mash evade and do an evade attack, so you don't perma stagger. Yeah, the evade attacks, especially for instance on Rogue, can be really strong. But at the same time, even if you're mashing evade on staggered, sometimes you can't really you're not like, let's say you get knocked down, you're kind of fucked until you get up, but they're doing half your health, depending like if it's an elite mod, you know.
And what is your name, man? Ramon, just understand too that a lot of what my like opinions are going to come from the perspective of Hunter, and especially on medium and longbow, there's no such thing as an evade attack. So, and we're the only class in the game that can't block. So hunters feel stagger the worst out of every class in the game. So just as a small like caveat, right? Like just first perspective. I just want you to know that.
And that's actually one thing I forgot to. I don't think any of us mentioned as well within the recent patch. Dale also feels this even harder because up until this most recent patch, iframes were bugged with the air vault for hunters. So they literally did not have any sort of evade that had an iframe except for their roll, which I don't even think that may have been iframed. I think their only iframe is the air vault, which Dale could probably correct me on this, but the air vault is fixed in the recent patch, where it is iframed. So you can't hear
that. Can't hear Dale that well. Sorry, bro.
It's on my stream. I'll turn you up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What was I gonna say? With the air vault thing, there is still like a brief moment in air vault where you lift off the ground, even if you're like mid flip. There's a brief moment in air vault where you still can get smacked down, which does kind of feel bad. For hunters, I see your point, but the playstyle for it is roll, trap, beetle, cyclone. No. And hunter comes with its own set of nuance and annoyance So I'm right there with you, bro. Which I think it's a cool way for hunters to survive. Exactly. Like we should be the ones that are more evasive. And if we do get caught, yes, it should be a problem for us. It's just a very big problem for us, I think, is what it is. And the air vault change was huge. Was huge, right? So I want to put that out there that 100%. I'm willing to kind of be a middle ground and see both sides of the fence. I'm not going to be like, fuck everyone that doesn't play Hunter. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not that guy. So, anyways, I digress.
And actually, piggybacking off that, I think we can get into the armor and weapon scaling in the next topic. But speaking on that, I think it would be also a good topic to kind of go over here. What do y'all think about for your classes, or just everything in general? How they have the traits, the skills, and like your abilities. Do y'all like the format that it's in? What's y'all's opinions on that as a whole? Like the trait system, do you think there should be more, and there should be instead of being able to get everything, you should go into a certain like role designated for each? Do y'all enjoy the way they have it? Same thing with the skills. Do y'all think obviously things this game is early access, so I'm sure everything will be added on, right? There will be more skills that'll probably come out, different things like that. But at this current state, what do y'all feel about the trait system and your skills and abilities?
Deca, you want to start with this one,
Per-
bro?
yeah, I got you. I think personally, um, for traits and skills, I think they did a pretty decent job. It's just, in my opinion, when you first start a new class with no traits and limited skills, I think you are at a massive disadvantage compared to anyone else that has that class leveled up. Especially coming from priest, I think you have to be like 10 or 12 to be able to air vault. I think level 8 to be able to air vault, and that's like a huge way to get out of certain fights if you need to heal or get to your team. Um, but yeah, I definitely would say that um, they did a pretty good job. I think if you want to be good and be the best you can, you have to play that class and level that class up to max. But yeah, I don't know. I that's just my opinion from a priest. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, Ramon, I definitely agree with you. This is kind of the topic that I was going to go into about. You don't think more traits is per se a good idea, um, but if you limit the amount that you can have active at a time to have certain play styles, just like how
I
they
like
have
that.
multiple weapons, right? Like you could technically go in like as a priest or whatever class, like as a rogue. I'm coming from a rogue man. I could bring in daggers and I could bring in swords. Those are two different play styles. Me personally, I run different abilities and skills with both of those play styles. If I'm running daggers, I prefer to play Shroud and Phantom Dagger. With swords, I prefer to play Visage and Phantom Veil for the safe teleport option. Daggers, the Shroud, just a lot longer of a stealth mechanic. And then obviously the daggers to get on top of people. Whereas on swords, I prefer to pop my Visage, go stealth, teleport to the Visage, get a blade dash off, maybe a second blade dash, and then if I'm getting jumped on or I don't think I can finish the kill, I can teleport back out to my Phantom Veil for safety as long as it didn't get killed. Um, for the traits, I would absolutely love for them uh, to pretty much limit what you can take in, so you
Yeah.
have specified um, play styles that you can do. But with that, I do think more traits would need to come in, personally, because what they have right now, obviously, you can go into every single one. Um, I would love for them to add more traits for specific play styles, and you could only limit yourself to a certain amount. Whether they do it by like the point system, kind of like they have for the levels, or however they would want to do it. But I do think a play style that is limited would be a really cool addition to the game. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
and I heard they are bringing like a prestige system for classes.
Oh yeah.
I believe
Oh, how
that
that's
they
gonna
brought
be.
that up. Yeah, I think that's gonna be kind of cool. That would be a good way to implement like the play style,
Yeah.
like point system.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm gonna probably echo a lot of what Merm said here. I want to open up with the traits specifically. I think it's cool that they have as many traits as they do off rip. We've seen a lot of games come out, Dark and Darker, where a class comes out and they don't have a lot of options, and there's pretty much one designated way to play the game or the class. I mean, I played a shit ton of Bard in Dark and Darker. Merms played a shit ton of Bard in Dark and Darker. I can't tell you the last time I ran fucking Dissonance. You run 10 song, right? Like it's the only way to play the class, right? And that sucks. It sucks when you're literally pigeonholed into one. Now there is some like off stuff with that game, but like with this game, the traits and the weapons do a really good job of developing specific play styles that you can lean into. And I love that. And I would love to see traits kind of lean into that as well. I would even like to see, because this game reminds me of so many MMOs like World of Warcraft, like the PvP in this game reminds me of like WoW PvP, just with more action RPG elements. And I love the combo. Fantastic. So let's rip off a little bit more. If we have, I think this would make all classes more fun. Exactly. Like, let's do off specs. Like, let's do spec off spec. Like, I can play my longbow, Sentinel Cyclone with Bramble Trap, Hunter, but then I can like click a different spec where all my traits are set up for like a medium bow CC kind of build. You know what I mean? And I can go back and forth on what I want to play, and I can have two like active, like choice style, setups that we could really lean into. And then I think a lot of what the classes feel like right now, where they just have everything, a lot of that goes away, and then you have to figure out kind of in the middle of the fight, like, oh, this hunter has pinning shot. Shit, we're fighting in the dungeon, right? Like, or oh, they're not running pinning shot, but they have the crippling shot, so I just have to be careful to not give them like easy shots on my legs, so I get slowed to like snails for like a good like it's kind of a long slow, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I think crippling shot needs to be looked at. Like if you get hit in the legs by a hunter, you're slowed for like good like feels like 2-3 seconds, and that feels like ass. You get caught in the middle of the open. But yeah, now for Hunter specifically, I will talk about the skills. We all know that Hunter has a skill that's basically a meme, and that's Sentinel's Call. The freaking skill is so broken. I was on stream last night trying it because a guy was like, yo, you should try out like the fucking pet hunter build, which is like running beetle plus Sentinel's Call. And I literally full swiftness did a Sentinel's Call into a gray wolf twice, like right in his face, and it just phased through him. And I was like, what is this broken shit, right? So there is stuff that is kind of memey. I mean, Rogue has grapple. Who the fuck uses that shit? Right? Like nobody uses that freaking
Only level
thing.
ones.
And then like who really like on priest uses the mirror that goes forward in a straight line? Nobody. Everybody uses the mirror that they can cast in front of them, and the gear that makes the mirror like turn, right? Like because that's I think like the goat shit is to bunker in place and like heal up behind cover. So
honestly, I feel like the mirror could be played really well, like the push mirror, because they have gear that if the mirror hits an enemy, it stuns and staggers them.
True, but I think that's only going to come out when the dungeon map comes out. Like no, I think
that's all. Oh,
you get what I'm saying? Like a close quarters map where you're in a hallway and you can't avoid the mirror. I think we'll see more of that played, but in this open ass football field that we fucking PvP in all the time, like I'm just gonna run 10 feet to the left and be fine. You know what I mean? Like
that's true.
Waste of a skill grapple is def needs more fine tuning. Yeah, exactly, man. They would def have more balancing challenges to deal with if this was implemented. They would. But I honestly think this is the kind of dev team that's down for it. I honestly think so. I think they look at all the weapons, like they set their game up for this, and they're fully aware of like what each weapon does for each class, how the play styles kind of work. Like you listen to like the lead developer Chris talk about the classes, and he's very involved and understands like what these things do, right? We're not talking about some dude that like spends his time in an office and then comes out and friggin' Trump daddy style says some off the cuff shit that were like, what kind of tone deaf change was that, bro? What have you been smoking in that room, dude? You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. But I'm really digging it. I just want them, I want to see them do stuff where like we as players have to make choices. And that'll just make the game, the PvP, that much more fun when the PvP is already so good, right?
Yep.
Progress is good,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying.
Yep. I'm definitely a fan of like, obviously I'm a big fan of PvP. And I like whenever there's more aspects into it, more to think about. Like coming from all the other games, I was big into World of Warcraft as well, and I was up to 2600 rating in arena there, as well as battlegrounds, and a lot of things, especially in arenas, you really had to worry about like what spec they're in, obviously, which goes into um, if they had limits to what kind of traits you were going, um, and then you would have to pay attention to their cooldowns, right? Which I brought up earlier in this about like if you're running Phantom Dagger on a rogue, you don't per se want to jump in on a warrior if you know that they have Quake off of cooldown. That's like something that's already like in the game that you can think of not, of a cooldown management, and figuring out when to go in and not. But especially whenever you could add those traits, um, you would need to like kind of think about all the classes, what kind of playstyle could they be going, and then
Yeah.
pay attention to that. So there's a lot more focus on what's going on before you really decide to make a move or all in, right? You're going to be playing kind of cautiously until you can understand what's going on and what they have available, and then go from there. And that's the kind of PvP that always gets me like the most excited. Like I love like just figuring it out, um, kind of getting some trades in, figuring out what they have available, what they use, and then depending on what I see, then um, I start making my judgment calls, going from there. So I really hope they kind of do go along with something like that, because right now it's kind of like, okay, this is this class and they're using this weapon.
Yeah.
And then you can see gear, and like as Dale was saying with Chris, like they've already implemented a lot of this stuff. They have it in mind. You can tell with all the gear that's in the game, they have different um like passives or like abilities with each set of gear. And they each do it each do different things depending on like what weapon you're using. Like for hunters, I know that they have obviously one for wind strike for like swift bow, which going into that as well, I do want them, which I'm pretty sure they're going to do, but just give a bit more of like tool tips, because especially if you're playing hunter early on, you don't see what wind strike is. You have no clue what that
Yeah.
is. It's not an ability or anything. It's your
Yeah.
right click on swift bow, and there's no mention of that, right? So I really hope that they add those in sooner rather than later, but that would be a big thing to add into the game as well.
I think they talked about that in Devcast, having a lot more tool
Yep.
tips. They called it a like a spell book. They called it in the spell book. They want to add all that stuff. Chris literally was doing the last time they did this stage in Discord, which is dope. If you guys haven't seen that, you should tune into that whenever they announce it. They get together, they do a Devcast in Discord, and then you can submit questions, or you can like flag raise your hand, and you can ask questions directly to devs, which is really dope. Because not a lot of dev outside of like Reddit and stuff like that, not a lot of dev teams do that shit. So definitely show up for something like that.
Oh yeah.
What was I? Man, I lost my train of thought really hard. But yeah, I say like Priest is a great example too. Like Sword and Shield Priest, no one knows that you can freaking block attack, or like shift like shield slam on Sword and Shield Priest. Like I didn't know that shit until I saw someone do it, and then I was like, wait, what's the keybind? And I was like messing around. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I figured it out, right? Like Hunter, I feel like is one of the only classes that it's, with the exception of Swiftbow, the evade attack and the wind strike attack on Swiftbow is the only things that aren't really discussed, but everything else is pretty straightforward, right? Like Elven
Yeah.
Dance, zoom in, shoot. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of hard to mess that up. But like Rogue,
Yeah.
Priest, Even warrior. Yeah, like they have extra tools at their disposal that isn't just walk in a straight line and press left click, which I think
Yeah.
makes this game that much more dynamic in its PvP, right?
Yep.
Because even in New World, like it was like you had 3 buttons and light and heavy attacks, and you had the iframe. That's it, right? And then you had the different iframes based on how heavy your gear was. Like this is almost like if we took New World PvP and we polished it a little bit, which I really fuck with, because me and Merm, we were slaying in New World open world PvP on release, bro. We loved that shit. So
Okay. And Ramon, I think what you're saying here, I think tooltips will help a lot for the casual players. And like doing some of the stuff that we were talking about with like maybe going with more traits and limiting you to certain play styles. I think that would be really good for like the more like the more advanced players or people that have been playing the game longer. But I think tooltips will be a big thing for more casual players because you can at least read and kind of figure out what is what instead of having to go in and just figure it all out, which most of us have had to do so far. Um, and like with Rogue, with the double evade, that is one thing. That is, I'm pretty certain that's actually in the traits. That's a
Yeah.
trait unlock that you do.
it is.
So that is technically there already, but you would just have to like read through the traits and everything. But I think they will definitely implement more onto the tooltips and let everyone be a little bit more aware of it, as well as like and when you're at the main lobby, they have that like learn to play or whatever. I think that's actually something that's really nice for a lot of casual players or new players. It definitely shows you a lot starting out through the game. I think not everything was done in there. I think they're gonna kind of update that as they go, and for each and every different class, I think that would definitely be helpful as well. Um, and for the player base, like I know they haven't really done any advertising. It's in early access. They don't want to advertise it and then get review bombed for
Yeah.
it being in early access. So I understand where they're at right now. But whenever they do make some more changes and kind of get a heading of where they want the game to go and take place, start advertising, I think we'll see a lot more players and things will get a whole lot more interesting then as well.
Yeah, I agree.
So y'all want to go into the armor and weapon scaling in this current state? I know Dale, we've all kind of had our little talks about this. Um, Deca, do you want to say anything about the armor and weapon scaling?
I mean, I think the scaling's pretty all right. I think my biggest issue is I can never tell what a hunter is wearing. That is like my biggest thing. Like rogues, priests, and warriors, if they're wearing anything over green, you can see it from a mile away. Hunters, I can never tell.
Yeah,
I don't know.
agree.
Maybe that's just me, but like
They get shinier. That's like the main
yeah.
thing, and it's kind of really hard to tell. I agree.
Yeah, like priests have stuff coming off the back of them. Their helmet becomes massive, and like rogue, I think the do rag turns like tan.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
for rogue specifically, your white is like a black do rag.
yeah,
The green is like a tan do rag.
yeah,
And then as soon as you go to blue, it becomes a full like cover.
yeah.
It's
yeah.
like a
Yeah,
it's
so
a shamag or whatever they call it, right?
Yep.
Like the full yeah, very easy
Yeah,
to
and
tell.
then with
Yep.
warriors, you got like a broken horn for white, 2 full horns for green, and then once you go to blue, it like turns all black.
Yeah,
It's like
and they got
you
the
see it a mile away.
yeah. They just
yeah.
look. You can always tell a geared warrior because it looks like the scariest thing in the lobby.
Yep.
Which
Just walks out of
to
a
that,
room, you're like, holy shit.
It's like, yo, they added a new raid boss.
oh
Yeah.
man, I got a fucking ad. Holy shit. Whoops.
Yeah, we gotta remember to turn ads off when we stream this. I did the same thing. Sucks.
Yeah, I just had an ad come through.
Sorry, boys, if you guys get any ads in the streams while you're watching, that's on us. We're gonna learn to get better at this the more we do it.
Yes, first run.
I think just between us guys, I think we saved roadmap for next week. We've already been going for like
roadmap.
All right, yeah,
we've
I'm
already
with
been
that.
going for like an hour just on all this stuff. So we could get
Yeah.
into like
Yeah.
gear scaling, a little bit extra about classes, and then try to open it up for questions.
Yeah.
Hear what the
I'm
homies have to say.
down with that. Do either of you have ads going, or they're about to go off, or anything like that?
I'm chilling right now.
I think mine are good right now.
Mine are good.
I want to say mine's good now. So we'll go ahead and continue on it. Are you speaking to it, Dale?
Yeah. So I think honestly, if I had the keys and I had like the steering wheel for like a week, the big change I would do for gear would be I would reduce the damage scaling heavily. I think the worn gear damage scaling is too much, and it creates a little bit of a canyon between the players. And like greens to whites, right, is a pretty big jump. That's you're talking about like 7.6% damage. When you get into blues, you're talking about what is it? It's like 20 something, 26.6 in purples. Like it's a pretty significant increase in damage, and I think what they could do instead of just doing, hey, here's a bunch of damage for having better gear, GG, is gear's a more effective substat on your gear. Like Elven Autumn Hides, you generate swiftness when you roll. Give me more swiftness per roll for greens and then for blues, and give me a little bit of damage. Like, I just don't want to see fucking 10% damage on a piece of gear times 2 and then 8% damage times 2 to make like, I mean, you're doing half your damage extra just in gear. Like that's a little rough on just worn gear. I think the weapon scaling is good. I think the weapon scaling is perfect. The gear scaling, like the chest, head, shoulder, legs, I personally think that the damage should come off of it. I think the defenses should scale, and you should get better versions of your gear stats.
Like the traits.
Yeah, oh, your fucking next Blade Rush does it. I don't know how they would have to really go to the fucking drawing board, but I think that would be a huge change. And then the game would not feel so gear like, because you can run around in blues and wipe a lobby, and that's I think mainly outside of skill, because you can kill those players. We literally blew up a priest the other day by trapping him under a bridge with all my seed bombs, and he blew up like a balloon. It was hilarious. But
and we just outplayed an entire like team that was in blues as well.
Yeah,
and we were in white. Like it can happen.
It can happen, but it's hard. And I think the damage, just the free damage on blue gear, the people that can fucking no life this game and just play, because grinding gear takes time in this game, and you get so little of it from drops. And then never mind the fact the place that you get it from, Morthog, is puppy guarded by the people with the best gear in the game. So it's like, it's just tough to come at it from like I can only play from 5 to 8 every night kind of standpoint. I think dropping the damage on gear would just be huge, humongous.
Yeah,
that's my only problem with gear.
Help.
I think the gear is fucking awesome otherwise. Like all the substats, the fact that you're basically building your kit based on the gear that you wear, that's dope. They usually have consumes for days too. Yeah, exactly. It's like everything. Like, oh, you did 1200 damage against a warrior, doesn't matter. He has 2 healing elixirs he just shoved in his mouth, and he's back to like full health with his priest healing him, and now he's bubbled and he's running at you like a freaking freight train. So GG, you're gonna die, right? Like all your hard work for nothing, and he's gonna smack you like a freaking like John Cena, bro. You know what I mean? He's coming for the top rope, dude. So that's all I have to say on gear.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with Dale. I think the damage scaling with the upgraded weapons is perfect. That I feel is perfect. When it comes to the armor, same thing. I wish they would kind of remove the damage scaling with it. The armor is perfectly fine, but the weapon scaling, I do wish it would come off. Obviously, it'd make them a little bit harder to kill. Upgraded upgraded armor, more PDR, defensive stats, elemental. But if you take that damage off, I think it'll open up a little bit more for skill as well as casual players that don't have that time, or newer players. They could get lucky, or after a certain amount of time, they could gain that skill to really take on those teams that may be uh, hardcore players in good gear. And yeah, I just think taking that damage off to just stop, those hardcore gamers from just running down lobbies would definitely be helpful. I mean, we all play this game quite a bit. I would say we're kind of towards the hardcore, but we also aren't the best. Like, we're not super sweats or anything. We can be at times, but
Yet.
we get rolled. We do
Just
rolling.
kidding.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I think playing to both sides, like the hardcore gamers and the casuals, is something that needs to be done, right? Because there's only going to be a limited amount of hardcore grinders
Yeah.
out there. Especially, I feel like the player base right now in this game is leaning towards like your late 20s to maybe your early 40s, at least from my experience. I feel like that's the majority of the player base. Um, so just kind of giving it a little bit to the casual players that don't have that much time, that's working their jobs, have families, come in, only have 2 to 4 hours to play a day, or maybe just play on the weekends. I think it would definitely help out all those guys to just knock off the weapon, the
Yeah.
damage scaling on armor.
I mean,
Yeah, I
a
think it would be a
purple
little
hunter
different.
with longbow can two-shot like anybody in white or green gear. The headshot with a purple longbow is like close to 1,000 damage based on the PDR the other person has. And I play hunter, and I'm the biggest advocate for it. That damage is bullshit, right? Like, you shouldn't be able to two-tap people in this game. The best fights are the ones that last, the ones that a ton of
Yeah.
cooldowns are getting expelled. You're
Oh, yeah.
freaking, everybody is like playing really well off their utility. There's big burst moments. There's spacing, there's resetting. Like, those fights are the best to fight.
Yeah.
And when you get two-shot, it's like, that fucking sucked. I mean, look at
Yep.
Dark and Darker. They've gone through so many metas where barbarians just run in and you fall over like a sack of potatoes. And no one likes that
Well,
shit except for the bard players. And everybody hates bard players in freaking Dark and Darker. So let's not do that in Legacy. That sucks. No one wants that shit.
yeah, yeah. Like I said, if we can cater to a little bit more of the casual players that have families, or life is busy. Life is busy for everybody, right? Everybody's got their own things going on. Life isn't just about games, right? So
Mhm.
just take off that. I mean, it is a huge grind at this current state to get the
Yeah.
higher gear.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is that time that you need to be rewarded for, but I don't think necessarily the damage on the armor
Yeah.
needs to be where it's at right now. I mean, even if they don't remove it completely, at least knocking it down from where it's at currently
Like
would be a
squishing
huge
it.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would open up a lot more for skill rather than gear checks, but the gear checks could still be implemented, right? Because you have the PDR, you could be bringing in a bunch of consumables. I don't know if I agree with the idea that's been put out there about limiting the amount of consumables you bring in. I think that could just be up to you, whatever you feel like, right?
Yeah.
I think you should be able to bring in a lot of consumables if you feel like it, because you might have the sole intention of going in and I want to clear this lobby, so I'm gonna bring every single med that I have in.
Yeah.
You could still get killed, right? Before you can use those meds. So I think it's still a thing. Um, so yeah, with that, y'all have any more on the weapon or armor scaling?
I think something that they could implement. I mean, it might be a little more out there, but for like instead of damage scaling, maybe keep the damage scaling for shoulders because that would kind of make sense. But like for legs, give you more sprint efficiency once you get up
Cool.
to purple, like plus 20%.
Yeah.
Helmets,
Good idea.
less headshot damage.
And
And
I
then
like
like
that.
chest, yeah, keep like the damage mitigation for the chest because that would make sense. But like shoulders, maybe they could do either the damage buff or they could even do like faster cast times for abilities.
Like
I know that
CDR.
wouldn't be, yeah, Just something little like that. Like they
I
don't
think-
have to.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
I like-
I
I
haven't
do.
even thought about it.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Gear slot specific buffs for stuff. I fuck with
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I fuck
Like
with
I
that heavy.
understand you can gem things, but like have like a base thing that scales with level as well.
Hell yeah.
Like I never understood how putting blue pants on gives you extra attack damage. I never understood that.
Because you can watch
But-
the big bulge I have in my pants is menacingly stalks towards you, bro.
Slaps you around.
Yeah, just
Just a-
you know what I mean?
Boom.
Like,
Slaps you right in the face.
yeah,
Wearing purple
yeah.
pants. If you see them, if they show up on your screen, you're just stunned.
I got my purple Prince pants on, bro. Check the print. You know what I'm saying? No,
Oh, man.
that's actually a dope idea, though, Deck. I didn't even, like Merm was saying, I didn't even consider that for a second, but that is sick. I fuck with that heavy. And then maybe
If you
like,
have legendary pants on, you're a walking tripod.
yeah, yeah, like legit, just dragging behind you. It's like footsteps, and then just one like big long. Anyways, getting a little silly with it.
Sorry, what were you saying, Jeff?
What's that?
So what were you saying?
No. I was just being stupid. It's all good. We can move on.
Gotcha. All right, so we'll save going over the roadmap and everything for the next video. And I know we'll have another big one, especially in May for whenever that the biggest patch so far is going to be coming out. So we will be going over everything. We'll be going over the patch notes, I'm sure. We'll do a rundown of everything. But is there anything else, any topics that we didn't go over today that any of you would want to bring up at this current time before we go to the chat and see if anyone has any questions or anything that they would want to talk about?
We didn't really talk about team comps at super length, so maybe we could say like if anybody's got some questions in chat, throw them up there. We're all watching chat, so we'll all see them. And I want to just touch on team comps real quick. Triple of anything sucks. It feels bad in a way, right? Like I like the freedom that you could that you can like choose whatever the hell you want to play. But at the same time, like it's hard to balance like 3 of anything. 3 warriors sucks. 3 rogues sucks. 3 priests is goofy. It's almost never played. But like 3 hunters fucking sucks, right? Like, however, you know, we were talking about priests and how they're a little on the over. Like, I think they're like low key undertuned or overtuned right now, and the reason for that is because they're the only support class in the game. They do crazy amounts of damage. They have crazy amounts of CC. They have crazy amounts of self-sustain, crazy amounts of movement, crazy amounts of team sustain. Dude, what
Yeah,
else are you gonna give those mofos? You know what I mean? Like that's insanity. So what are we seeing right now? Like I'm personally seeing a lot of like warrior priest priest, warrior priest, warrior priest hunter, warrior priest rogue. And anytime that priest is in that team comp, that team slaps, bro. Like they're just if the priest knows what they're doing. If the priest is really experienced, those teams are freaking coming to Thundertown. You know what I mean?
Yep.
The triple warrior teams have fallen off, and I'm super happy about that. I'm not gonna lie, and I think that's because warrior has been put in its proper place, where with that support, warrior gets really scary, but without the support, warrior's like pretty easy to deal with and cut away from. And I fuck with it because I think warrior players should feel pretty happy with where warrior is right now. They're pretty fair. Like if they catch you, like they typically worked for it, they earned it, and they should be rewarded for it, right? And a lot of the classes still have some counterplay. What else? That's pretty much it. Just kind of team
I will-
comps. What I've been seeing a lot. That's all.
I will say with that, what do y'all think about if they? I'm not sure if they brought this up. They may have, but what would y'all think about if they implemented specifically like in mixed that you can't have more than one class? Now there's only 4 classes available now, so that would be kind of limiting players, and especially like if you have friends that play the same class as you. But what do y'all think about implementing something where you can't bring in more than one of each class?
I don't like it. I think players
Yeah,
should be
one
able
like
to
that.
play whatever they want to play. If there's ever a ranked arena, I'm cool with it being in that. But I think
Yeah.
when it comes to playing the base game, you should be able to. If you and your buddies want to play triple rogue and be little rat boys, do it, dude. Fuck yeah.
Pickpocket squad.
You know, like
Yeah.
live your
I like
little freaking like player fantasy, dude. I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
there's always gonna be a team out there that's gonna diff you or gonna counter you. Like, there's no avoiding it, right? So yeah, personally, I don't like the idea. A lot of games I've always flirted around with that idea of like limiting what people can play, and I'm not a fan. Rock out what you want to rock out, bro.
Yeah, I agree with you. If they add like a ranked arena, I think that everyone should be in a specific gear, and there should be one of each. There are no triple rogues or hunters and stuff like that. But that's my opinion. I agree with you on that.
Does WoW have it where you can't have double? I can't remember in their ranked arena.
I
Or
don't
can you
No,
queue multi?
no,
You can queue
you
whatever,
could
right?
you can
Yeah.
do whatever. Like you could run a ret paladin and a holy paladin, and then like a whatever, like a warlock or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, oh my god. Probably does that guy have a disc for each year he hasn't gotten?
What's that?
I don't know if that was probably in my chat maybe.
Wait, what happened?
Nothing. Just disregard that.
Started on personal use. Oh, you're the Legacy Guides YouTube channel, bro? I've seen some of your videos, man.
Yeah,
You're
Pondo.
killing it, by the way, Pondo.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, bro. Mad props, by the way. Your shit looks so official, dude. I love it.
It does.
It looks sick.
does.
It looks
Yeah,
sick.
we'll get there. We'll get there.
thumbnails
We'll
for
get there.
everything.
Yeah, we'll
I
get
love
there.
the thumbnails.
Our
We will get
janky
there.
ass shit. But hell yeah.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah,
trying to
well-
like hit the ground running with content for this game. We've all been content creators for other games so far. You know what I mean? Like, I've played a bunch of different titles. Merm's played a bunch of different titles, and Deca has. But in terms of like the whole encompassing, like, we want to hit the YouTube, we want to hit the podcast, we want to hit the streams. This is the one that we're trying to do it on.
Yeah.
It's terrifying putting content
Pondo-
out to be judged. Yeah.
Yeah. Hondo, I'm right there with you. Like, Dale is probably the biggest, I would say, content creator out of all of us. He's been streaming already for, yes, I'm
100%.
pretty
I
much
agree.
ran fucking him,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
Dale's been streaming. This month is actually his 2-year anniversary of being an affiliate on Twitch. So congrats in this video as well.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate you.
Congrats on the 2nd year of affiliate. Dale's also been, he's already put out YouTube videos and things like that of other games in the past. This isn't my first time streaming with
Thanks,
games.
Pondo.
I've done that in the past. I've probably streamed over 1,000 hours of other games, but I've never uploaded any YouTube videos until now as well. I've only uploaded the one about vendor reputation, which I'm gonna end up redoing because I'm pretty sure the volume just was not there on that one. So I'm gonna get that corrected, but we're doing whatever we can. We really enjoy this game. I think we're all very excited with what's to come with it. We're very hyped about it. We love it. Love the PvP. We've just been die hard over it, and we want to create content, help out newer players, and hopefully just bring, make the casual players or newer players just have an easier experience, just like you yourself, Pondo. Yeah, so just trying to build a good community here. Hopefully as well get out some of those toxic ones.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Agree.
I mean, you're never gonna get rid of toxic ones, but
No, but
They'll
if
be
like
here.
if the greater community is a bunch of homies that are just trying to get together to play some games with a little friendly
Oh, yeah.
sazon of like toxicity on the top, I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? We got to talk
Yeah.
our shit. You know what I mean? Haters or viewers,
Oh yeah,
keep the
haters to
toxic
viewers.
ones. Yeah, exactly, bro.
Yeah.
One of my
Yeah, and
longest subs is a tier 3 sub. He's my biggest hater and biggest supporter simultaneously. It's hysterical. He used to literally come into each of my streams and go, "Shit streamer." And I'm like,
yeah,
thanks,
like
bro.
worst streamer ever.
So
But he's been a tier 3 since day one.
literally for 2 years
Literally
straight.
for 2 years, tier 3. But as well, we plan on doing this podcast for a very long time. We plan on doing maybe, I think we're gonna shoot for weekly podcasts, but that's to come. But we also plan in the future of having like guests of other content creators on this game. And I think honestly, you would be a good one too if you'd want to hop in one of these with us. Just shoot us a message, or maybe we'll get in touch with you. But I love the videos that you're putting out there, Pondo. And luckily, you did come and check here, and I saw that calculator video you did the other day. And like going into it, I looked at the Twitch and I was like, okay, this guy is Pondo Bruin. I don't think I've
Yeah.
seen him yet. And then of course you chat, and I think I was actually looking at the calculator this morning, and I was like, oh yeah, this Pondo dude is a homie for coming up
Oh
with
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And then you just happen to jump in here, so that's really dope. But we'd probably, I mean, I think all of us here would love to have you on
For sure.
at some point and get your perspective on things too, brother.
Yeah.
And if
I feel like he'd have
anyone wants to like come on, like cams are optional. If you're not like a cam streamer or anything, dude, you can come on as a little Discord emote and just come and chat. Just
Yeah.
just grace us with your presence, grace the homies with your presence and your guys' opinions. Because I don't think any of us believe that we are like the goat takes of the game, right? Like we're just dudes that love to play it. So we're
yeah,
willing to be
Yeah.
corrected. We're willing to have our friggin' opinions changed. Talk to me about Warrior, man. Tell me how that class isn't complete dog shit. Because, if you could spin me up on it, I might even play it a little bit. But, for right now, Hunter has my heart. And, it's nice. It's a little icing on the cake that I have the best cosmetic in the game. The only one,
The
Sexy
only
blue
one right
elf.
now.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm in there, bro. You know what I mean? Like, so. But hell yeah. Please hit us up. We definitely want to try to keep on keeping on. Send me
Yep.
game in Discord. Let me know your next episode is. We're thinking probably Fridays. Just stick with
Probably
it.
every Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, probably
If-
Friday nights is when
if-
we'll end up doing our. I mean, if we have a guest on or multiple guests that might not be able to make that time, we might be able to switch it to like a weekend, like a Saturday or something. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's up for discussion. But yeah, we plan on doing these for the most part on Friday nights.
And we're looking to get like an overlay for the Discord and all that stuff. Some cool graphics and shit. So pimp it out. And, if anybody has any ideas, like shoot us messages. I have a Discord. Deca has a Discord. You can find my Discord in my Twitch, just !point Discord. And I think Deca, you as well, right?
I believe so.
So if you come through one of our Discords,
I thought that would work.
I think mine.
here
would
I can do mine real quick.
Maybe not with shared chat. I could always just post my Discord.
There's mine right there.
Yeah, it's
That's the
fine.
dungeon.
Oh, Dale.
And then you can do Deca, you can post yours too, man. And then like you guys come in, like please come be part of the community, bro. Like, if you guys are looking to play with people, we're always happy to like have, because there's times where Merm and I or Deca and I are just two players playing Phil. So
Yeah.
if you guys want to play some games, man, come through, dude. We're always down to meet new homies.
Yes, sir. Well, I think.
Yeah, we could. Oh,
What's that?
why did it copy that?
Gotta
Use copy button. What?
W.
love it. Gotta love it. It's the streamer.
Yeah, we're not gonna talk about that.
I gotta get you hooked
It
up with
says
stream
copied.
elements, Merm, so that you can get all your commands, your chat commands squared away, your redeems and
Yeah.
stuff. We gotta work on that
Nude, all that
offline.
stuff. So,
Yeah,
We'll
I don't
get all
think
that
mine's
squared
gonna
away.
work. Something's messed up. It's all good.
but
They'll join yours.
well, we appreciate everyone for coming. I think this has been pretty good first episode for the
Yeah.
Goldbrook Tavern Legacy Steel and Sorcery podcast,
Mm-hmm.
episode 1. I would say this has been really good. I appreciate everybody for coming.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
See you, boys.
Kisses.